Bronze and Modern Gods. Another week, another episode. I'm John, and that's Richard.
Hi, John. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. Lots to cover today. You know, our usual stuff, hot book of the week, our underrated books of the week. But our main topic this week, OG variants, the original variants. You got variants everywhere now, 1 in 10, 1 in 25, 1 in 50, 1 in 5,000. But did you know variants actually started in the 60s and 70s? It's true. We'll tell you all about them. But first, let's get our hot book of the week. Richard, take it away.
It's true. All right. Our hot book of the week this week is Berserker #1, the third print. This is a gorgeous book. If you haven't had an opportunity to see it, John's going to put a copy of it there on the screen. It is a foil cover. It's got the main character with this spine with a skull on it, and he's holding it like a weapon. It is amazing. It is the third print of a title that had a first print of 650,000 copies.
Why does this need a third print?
Oh, hey, there's a fourth print, okay? Yeah, well, it's the reasons that I've heard is okay, sure, it had a huge print run, but those print runs, the actual books that got delivered to smaller dealers, they may not have ordered like to get the 1 in 5,000. They may not have ordered the 5,000 books, right? So they ordered 20 books, and there was a strong run on this title, so they may have sold out. So at that point, Diamond, not necessarily the publisher, but Diamond decides, okay, well, we're going to do a second print. And the second print's going to be about 100,000. They're estimating, they're figuring that's going to be that. Second print comes out while people still have first prints on the shelf.
I know.
And the second print flies off the shelf. So in some of the more I don't want to say rural, but the smaller than LA type cities, the book sells very, very well. It's got Keanu's name after it. It's got a lot of buzz behind it.
It's got a movie announcement. I mean,
exactly. So the second print sells out. So okay, so the people, okay, now they figure, okay, this time we're just going to say, okay, we're going to have 10,000 copies, and then that's it for the third print. The stores around the country heard there's only 10,000 copies. They start ordering it like crazy. I guess one shop tried to order all 10,000. Was put the kibosh on that by Diamond. But so what happened is a lot of these comic book stores got allocated on this title. So instead of getting their full order of 50, they may only got 5. So it was and is probably the most exclusive copy of this book, unless they do a fifth print. Goodness knows what they're going to do. But it's a gorgeous cover. It is absolutely gorgeous. The second print cover is a foil cover. It's gorgeous. The fourth print, they said, okay, we aren't even going to print the fourth print. It's going to be foil again, but we're not even going to print it until after FOC, until actually we know how many copies people have ordered. So it's going to take longer for the book to get on the shelves, but everybody who wants one is guaranteed to get one. So a fourth print hasn't had FOC yet, so we really don't know how many is going to be in that particular print. But I can almost guarantee you that 10,000 copies for the second or third print is going to be the smallest print run. Why would you go from 650 to 100,000 sellouts of those and then print 10,000? It doesn't really make much sense to me why you would sell such a small run of books.
Richard, you're looking for logic in this market right now, and I'm here to remind you, logic has flown out the window completely. Darkhawk #1 is selling for $100. Okay, so there's just no logic here anymore. It's just a feeding frenzy. Sharks, chum,
Yeah, well, but you know what? The thing is, right now this book is selling for about $50. There was, when it originally came out, there was listings for $100, and it could bear fruit if Keanu makes this movie, and this movie is successful. Keanu has a track record of making successful films, especially if he has directorial abilities on this film. A print run of only 10,000 is a really, really restrictive number. And you could see people who, either for FOMO or just want to get a copy of this limited run. You could see these prices go up, over $200, $300 for a copy of this book. Again, like you say, the market is insane. Who knows? You have a trailer for the movie, and it could be $1,000 book. We really have no way of predicting anymore.
I see other books suffering / benefiting from all the retailer money going towards this books of this nature that came out this week as well. Robin #1, very under order with a lot of first appearances. People are kind of specking on that. Black Widow #6. Who's ordering, multiples of Black Widow? And there's a 1 in 10 for that. Who, even in LA, is ordering 10 copies of the Black Widow issue 6 in order to qualify for that? Because, retailers have a limited pool of capital when they place their orders. So if you're ordering all these BRZRKR prints, something's got to give, unless you're Midtown or Golden Apple or someone huge like that. And those aren't the majority of retailers. So it's interesting seeing other books benefit from this on the collector's level. You're a retailer, a smaller retailer, you have a limited pool to spend on this, and it's all being sucked up by BRZRKR, which, by the way, is the toughest title to Google.
Yeah, there are a lot of really, DC is trying really hard to push some new characters, and unfortunately, I don't think the orders were where they expected them to be for the reasons you mentioned. That's a great thing for collectors who are specking, because books like Robin #1 or even the Nightwing, some of the covers for Nightwing are awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll have to see how it bears fruit in terms of, again, this market is so insane. It's difficult to predict what a new comic is going to do. It's difficult to predict what an old comic's going to do. So we'll have to wait and see.
And more Nightwing coming up later this episode, foreshadowing. But if you're not following us at Bronze and Modern Gods on Facebook and Instagram, please do so. Visit us at bronzeandmoderngods.com. And if you watch this video and you get anything out of it besides wanting to punch us in the face, please hit like and subscribe.
Please don't punch us in the face.
Yeah, we like you. Don't do that to us. Our main topic this week, OG variants. Oh, gee whiz. What were the first variants? Where are we at with these? Why are they so sought after by a select number of collectors? We're going to try to break down as many as possible. I'm going to start, Richard, with probably the very first price variants, which are from the early and mid 60s. Did you even know this?
No.
Dell Comics and Archie, when comics were 12 cents, they experimented with variants of 15 cents. And there are certain titles like the first appearance of Sabrina in Madhouse that have a 15-cent variant out there. They were tested in limited markets, and that's where it all started. Just so you guys know how these variants are done, in the printing process back then, they had different plates of the film, and there you had the 4 colors, and then you had a black plate. All they had to do was replace the black plate with a different price and put it back down on the printing press. So they're not technically reprints. It's all done in the same print run. They're just swapping out one of the black plates. That's how these things were done back then. And we get up to the late 70s, and we get what we call the Whitman reprints. You probably have seen these. Very easy to get confused with early direct market books. Whitman reprints have that big diamond for Marvel.
Right.
In that price box. You can tell because the Curtis distribution symbol, which is the CCC that's in there, is gone. And the difference between these and early direct, the direct still had the UPC, but it had a slash through it, or it had a picture of Spider-Man or some sort of art in that UPC. Now, these Whitman reprints are really the first mainstream occurrence of variants being created for distribution. They were originally run to be polybagged in sets of 3 comics, and that was always a thrill, going to the toy store or a non-traditional, non-newsstand outlet and finding these polybags and trying to see what was the center book.
Squishing it over just to
see
what,
oh, it's a Conan, never mind. These were sold to kids. they weren't made for collectors. They were made to be sold in, like I said, Toys R Us or department stores in the toy section. So they're very scarce and high grade. There were collectors like us consider them worthless. The Star Wars Whitmans, worthless. They say reprint on the side.
Right. Right.
They, so they lived in quarter boxes for decades. Most of these were sold to kids who read these several times, tossed them aside. So as a result, getting a 9.8 for a Whitman is like finding gold in your swimming pool.
The Whitman the ones that I have the most experience with are the Star Wars Whitman reprints,
Yeah.
and they say they have the diamond, and then they also will say reprint in the little corner box. But I think that's been a point of confusion for a lot of people. They'll see a 35-cent Star Wars #1 and get all excited, and may mispay because they didn't notice that diamond or notice that reprint on the label.
Yeah, very different from the 35-cent variant of Star Wars #1, which we'll get to. When Star Wars #1 was reprinted, I think 6 times by Marvel and Whitman. The DC comics also had Whitman reprints, much easier to spot the DC ones
Mhm.
because they swap out the DC bullet with a Whitman logo.
Right.
Looks horrible, but what are you going to do? Now, there are some very valuable Whitman reprints on the DC side. DC Comics Presents #22 with Superman and Captain Comet is one of the rarest and most expensive. A 6.5 sold for $2,295 2 years ago.
Wow.
It's very hard to find this. There are 2 DC Whitman reprints that are even tougher to find, but they don't sell for as much because they're not as in demand as a Superman title. Sergeant Rock 329 and The Warlord 22 are impossible. They exist. People have found them. But you don't have a lot of people who are like, I must have that Sergeant Rock. So they don't sell for as much. Now, on the Marvel side of things, the most expensive Whitman, period, Marvel or DC, you've heard us talk about this on the show before. It is a variant of a variant. It is, of course, Captain America #212. And this just sold in February of this year, a 7.5 for $2,500. Yes, I was a bidder. Yes, I missed out.
Yeah, that was my next question because I know you're looking for this book, and the fact that there was one sold in recent times and you don't have it is a little sad.
You know what my limit was? I set a limit for myself on it. My limit was 2,500.
Uh,
And I kind of wish I had gone 26 or 25.52, but
you never know. I mean, his limit may have been 3,000. So
yeah, c'est la vie.
yeah.
So Richard, tell us about Mark Jeweller's variants.
Yeah, Mark Jewellers is something that I wasn't really clear about until we talked because apparently you saw these actually on the newsstands. Um, these books are with a 4-page cardboard insert that was put in books that were sold at military PXs. So if you were on a military base, you went to the PX, you would come across these comic books.
Sorry, one thing I did not put on notes: overseas military bases. So if you were like me, stationed at Fort Ord in Monterey, California, you just got regular newsstand distribution. But if you were overseas like me in South Korea at the PX, that's where the Marks Jewelers were sold.
Oh, I wasn't aware there was that differentiation. So
Yeah,
it's only on overseas markets. Wow, that makes
yeah.
them even more rare. It's estimated to only be 5% of the print run for a given title. So that is pretty limited. These existed from the early 70s all the way through the 80s and early 90s. And it's a sought out variant. People will pay a premium for a book that has that insert. Books like New Mutants '98 will even have a Mark Jeweller's insert. So keep an eye out for this, and you'll know what it looks like if you open a book. It's got that insert. It will have pictures of rings and jewelry. They're put there. If I'm getting this right, John. So people who are interested in getting married had an option as to where to buy jewelry, since there may not be a jewelry store in in the field in Korea. This gave
Yeah.
them an option to be able to buy wedding rings and engagement rings and such.
Let's be real here. Any veteran listening to the show will agree with me. It might be shocking to you guys to hear me say this, but the majority of young men that join the military, 18, 19 years old, 20, they fall in love with the first girl that they get with. You know what I mean? Especially if they're overseas and they're missing home and they're lonely. So you got to get that ring, or you got to get a piece of jewelry for that girlfriend or fiance. And you're limited, really. If you're stationed in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, or something like that, you're not going to hop to the mall and go to the jewelry store. So these Mark jewelers actually performed a really good service to the military, depending on your point of view. And I kind of kick myself now because I was collecting comics when I was in South Korea. And if I had known I could just go to the PX and buy the entire stack of New Mutants 98 and have them all have Mark Jewelers variants, I want to go back in time. I want to go back in time.
Yeah, just have a stack of them. It's sitting there, putting them in plastic, and I'll just wait for 30 years.
Exactly. I did it with the books. I carry them from station to station. What's interesting is a lot of people still don't know about these. If you go to a convention and you're flipping through, they weigh differently. You can kind of feel the heft, and you can kind of look above and see the centerfold and see that they're in there. I just, I'm not going to call it out, but there's someone on Instagram. I just bought a whole ton of dollar books from a big run of Captain America, and they all had Mark Jewelers variants in them. No,
Yeah, I keep looking for. None of my books that I have checked have that insert, so I'm keeping my eye out for them.
yeah, always look for them. And if you try to press them, that's a whole nother thing because it's got this gummy self-adhesive envelope thing. So read Captain Mike's book before you do any humidity or pressing with these things. I've successfully pressed them and just follow his instructions. So let's get to the price variance. Marvel, in particular, tested two different price points. Once when comics were 25 cents and once when they were 30. They were trying to see what the market would bear. How much is too much for kids? So the first test was a 30-cent price variant, which was from the months of April, cover dates, April 76 to August 1976. And this happened in 5 metropolitan areas: in the Baltimore area, Springfield, Massachusetts, Grand Rapids, Michigan, Albuquerque, New Mexico, and San Antonio. So if you live in those cities, man, you made out. These are sought after. They're scarce, not as scarce as the 35-cent variants, but there are a few titles, the monster reprint titles in particular, and the Western titles that are really tough. Some people want to collect all 30-cent variants for those 3 months. It's tough to do because the Western ones in particular are super tough. The reprint titles like Marvel Triple Action and Marvel Adventure and things like that, those are tough as well.
The next group is the 35-cent price variants. Now, this is something that I have more experience with, especially as a Star Wars fan. You're always chasing that 35-cent number one. The 35-cent variants were when books were 30 cents, and they again picked different markets. This time, this was from June 1977 through October of that year. You had different markets, though. This time you had in Alabama, Tuscaloosa, North Carolina, the Wilmington area, Ohio, around Toledo. So I'm always excited when I go to that part of the state. Tennessee, around Memphis, and then in San Antonio again. Texas wins the prize. So yeah. So again, the book that I'm most familiar with for these are two. There is the Star Wars #1 and #2, which are probably the highest value in the Star Wars realm. And then there's also Eternals #1.
Yeah.
That's a 35-cent variant, and that one also commands a significant premium.
Eternals 1 is a 30-cent variant because it was still 25 cents.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But there are 35-cent Eternals variants, but they're later in the run. Now, the interesting thing about the 35-cent, there's a few keys that happened besides Star Wars #1. That's why these 35-cent variants tend to go for more. Iron Fist 14, First Saber that has a 35-cent variant. 2001 #8, the first appearance of Machine Man, has a 35-cent variant. Captain America 212 has a 35-cent variant. So there's interesting, it's not key, this is one I want.
Key to
But
you.
yeah, but there are keys out there. And in my experience, I have found that if you find a dealer or a store that has one 35-cent variant, there's more. And it doesn't matter where you are geographically. I can say it now because I bought them all. But I went to a store in Concord, California, when I was up in Northern California once, and I found just a treasure trove of 35-cent variants, including a 2001 number 8. And I bought them all. The guy just, some dealers just have no clue about the variants, which kills me. I feel somewhat guilty doing it,
No,
but
no, all they have to do is watch this podcast.
I know, but then there's a store here in the Valley in Southern California that I bought them all, so I'll just name it Earth 2 in Sherman Oaks. He had he had one X-Men 35-cent variant on the wall for $14. I bought it and I started looking. I just thought, let me check all the titles. And I found 4 more from different titles in that store. So you may have had someone who lived in that area that collected and moved and sold their collection. So I find they kind of appear in batches.
Excellent, excellent. So, what other 30-cent variants do you think have value?
The 30-cent ones, there's not a lot of keys in the 30-cent time. There weren't a lot of big titles or big characters debuting in that stretch. You've got X-Men 30-cent variants, just the early issues. You've got Howard the Duck, I think 3 and 4, 5, or maybe only 3 and 4 because it was bi-monthly at the time. But not a lot of key issues. And for some reason, the 30-cent variants don't seem to be as scarce as the 35-cent variants. So just keep your eyes open. You can kind of tell the font is a little wonky on them. It looks different. It's, something doesn't feel right when you look at it. If you've looked at comics enough, you're like, wait, something's different about this one.
Right.
Trust
The 5 is a little bit off in
Yeah,
the 35-cent variant plate.
the font used for the 3 is wider. Yeah, I can spot them. There's a couple of like false alarms. Like there's an issue of Inhumans that looks like it's a variant. It's not. It's actually 30 cents. They just did the whole run at 30 cents. There's a couple of 35-cent ones where they changed the price permanently on the whole run. It's not a variant, so not everything is exciting. Like, I found one. So just double check before you get too excited. So moving into a little more recent times, even though it's 20 years ago, DC Universe variants. These are sort of a 90s version of the Whitman reprints. They were packed in big multi-packs, 2 comics, 5 comics, 20 comics at Toys R Us. They were sold at non-traditional outlets again, like Hallmark stores, Costco, toy stores like Toys R Us, like I said. And they were reprinted titles from DC right around like the death of Superman. There's a lot of those that are DC Universe variants. Some are very, very rare, but they're mostly the marginal B-level, C-level titles like Guy Gardner, Warrior, or Superboy. The first appearance of Killer Shark, or is that his name, Killer Shark? Shark Man, eat 'em up. There's the DC Universe variant for that one. Now, these do carry a premium, but they don't seem to be as popular yet as some of the other variants. A lot of people haven't picked up on these. Still many deals to be had on eBay if you're looking for these, because a lot of people just don't know what they have. I got a ton of Batman and Detective DC Universe variants from a guy for like $1 each. I just grabbed them because I noticed they were DC Universe variants. You can tell because the UPC says DC Universe.
Right.
Pretty
Right.
easy to spot these.
Yeah, I've personally not come across any of these. Then again, I'm not a heavy DC buyer, but yeah, they're easy to pick out because of that DC universe in the UPC box.
Yep. What do you got?
Me, next one is something from 1966. This is the Golden Record reprints. Anyone who is looking for a Fantastic Four #1 or Journey into Mystery #83 and sees the going prices for those books is probably looking for alternatives. Well, back in 1966, a company called Golden Records licensed from Marvel the ability to reprint certain titles. That's Journey into Mystery '83, which is the first Thor, Fantastic Four #1. Enough said.
Mhm.
Spider-Man #1, and Avengers #4, which is the first Captain America. So all these books were reprinted with an audio record that went along with it. So you had a RP or LP sleeve, and in the sleeve you had a record, and then on the other side you had the actual comic book. And you could follow along if you played the records. You could follow along and read the comic book. It was an attempt to ease children into reading comic books and developing a love of comic books. These books are almost perfect reprints of the original books. There are some differences. For example, there's no advertisements. The back cover is different, but it's printed in 1966. For example, I wanted Fantastic Four #1. I can't afford even a .5 Fantastic Four #1 right now. So this book is a great alternative. The Fantastic Four #1 Golden Record reprint. The cover looks exactly like the original. The only difference is there is no price box, so there's no 10-cent price box on the cover. And again, the back is different. It actually has advertisements for Golden Records on the back.
Are,
But
are are there fewer pages because there's no ads? So is it 32 page or is it reduced?
that's a good question. I have mine. I will add it to the comments. I have my Golden Record reprint that I'm going to send off to CGC, and I'll take a look at it to
Yeah,
see.
do us a favor. Count the pages. I'm curious.
Mhm. But it looks again, it looks exactly the same except for that price box being missing. And given this, 1962 was the original Fantastic Four #1, and 1966 is when this reprint came out. The book has the same kind of patina, the same kind of aging that the original has. So I'm using it as my Fantastic Four #1 and my 1 through 5 Fantastic Four run, because it's the only Fantastic Four #1 I'm going to ever be able to afford. So, um, and again, other books: Spider-Man #1, Avengers #4, and Journey into Mystery #83 are also reprinted in the same series.
And they're affordable now, but they may not be for long. So I would move fast. So tell us about your favorite variants. Let us know what we missed. Let us know what you learned, because we will cover it in our viewer mail episode, which happens later this week. If you've missed us the last few weeks, viewer mail has spun off into its own episode that we do later on in the week. So hit that notification bell so you are notified when it goes live. And now it's time for the 25-year rule. I did so well last week, I got lazy. I'm sorry
It's all good, John. It's
for the
all good.
lack of transition and segue. But we did tease this earlier. The 25-year rule, if you're new to the show, we cover books from the year 1996, 25 years ago, when nostalgia kicks in, when you're a youngster in that time, and 25 years later, you start spending your money to recreate your childhood. You might want a copy of this book, Nightwing #1. This is the first issue of the ongoing series. There was a miniseries in late 1995 that did well enough for DC to give Dick Grayson the green light for his own ongoing title, and it was successful. It ran for 153 issues.
Wow.
Yeah, not too shabby a run. He is still a popular character to this day. He has his own title. This book, in particular, Nightwing #1 from 1996, has seen a jump of 80% over the last 12 months. A 90-day GPA for a 9.8 is now $181. So if you want a Nightwing #1, don't hesitate. It's moving.
Yeah. Any idea why the price jump?
I think people are realizing, how popular Nightwing is. The new series is doing well.
Yeah.
Uh, People kind of slept on this character in this book for a long time, took it for granted. And now, if you try to find a Nightwing #1 in 9.8, it's not as easy as you would think it would be.
Wow. Excellent.
So let's move on to our underrated books of the week. Richard, what do you have?
My book this week is a Star Wars book.
Oh my God.
From 2016, Darth Vader #25, the JTC action figure variant cover.
What's
I
JTC stand for?
It stands for John Tyler Christopher, who is
Oh, okay.
the cover artist. He's famous for these action figure variant covers, as well as the negative space variants covers as well, which he did later. But this book is, I'm picking it because, first of all, it is the last book in the series, in this particular series. Uh, it has a very cool ending to it. It closes up a whole bunch of, ties a whole bunch of threads that have been running through the series. I won't spoil it for you because it's actually a pretty cool ending. But the main reason I picked this book is because of Dr. Aphra.
Ah,
Dr. Aphra is a character in the Star Wars universe that was introduced in Darth Vader #3, earlier in this particular series. The action figure variant has her in a blister pack as an action figure on the cover. It's a really cool looking book. It is the book to get from this particular title, from number 25. There are a number of variant covers that came out for this book. I highlighted one that I really liked. This is the 1 in 25 by Cho. It's
mm,
a red background with black highlighted Darth Vader. Really cool. It was a good series altogether. This action figure variant, though, is a low census run. It's only got 68 books on the census, of which 50 of them are 9.8s. So the 9.8s are not considered, they're not overly rare. The GPA for it, 12 months, 12-month GPA. In other words, the average price 12 months ago was $73, but the last sale is $120. These
oh,
things go for about 40 bucks, 40 to $50 raw on eBay. So there is interest in them, and I feel the feeling that, you know, right now, uh, Darth Vader #3 is starting to be priced out of a lot of people. It's going for about $500 to $550 for a 9.8. So if there is an announcement, and again, this is without any kind of confirmation she's going to be in the Star Wars universe. If there is confirmation, that is going to be $1,000 book,
yeah.
easily. And so, people turn to other keys when their primary keys are, they're priced out of that. And this could very easily turn into a Dr. Aphra key book. Again, having that, being the last book in the series, it has a really cool ending that involves her. And this particular action figure variant seems to be fairly rare at 68 on the census. So yeah, this is a nice pickup. 120 bucks. I would pick this up all day long, and just put it away, because we all feel like Dr. Aphra is going to be a part of the universe. It's just a matter of, just like Wolverine. We all know Wolverine's coming to the
Yeah.
MCU. It just hasn't been announced yet. So everyone gets the feeling that this is a key character in Disney's toolbox. So we'll see her eventually on the screen.
It just seems like you just can't go wrong with Star Wars at this point. I mean, I'm even throwing a couple copies of every issue that comes out. Just I'm not reading them. Apparently, the new issue of Darth Vader #8, I think, is also getting a lot of buzz for some reason. I saw something. I have no idea why.
I don't either. I have not read the latest copy, so I'm not really sure.
So take it from us, two uninformed people. Darth Vader #8 as well. Throw that in. If you see it on the shelf, grab it. My book this week, I know this one. This is me. New X-Men #114, otherwise known as the first issue of the Grant Morrison revamp from the early 2000s. Now, this issue changed the direction for the X-Men significantly for the first time since Chris Claremont and John Byrne came on the book and really took it into the stratosphere. X-Men, love them or hate them, they were kind of stale at this point in the late 90s. Things just weren't clicking. And so Joe Quesada took a big chance and got Grant Morrison and Frank Quitely to really shake things up. And they made this team very proactive, with a return to Xavier's School for Gifted Youngsters being the focus, new leather jackets and uniforms that,
Pockets, lots of pockets.
not pouches, but pockets. They served as really the visual inspiration for that original Fox movie franchise. That's where it started, that look of Wolverine with the black leather. It didn't come from some movie executive's mind. It came from the mind of Grant Morrison. Now, to be fair, the artwork is really divisive for this entire run. Some people love Frank Quitely. I'm one of them. Some people don't. I'm pointing at Richard.
Not Not a fan. Sorry.
I like his approach. It's unique, it's different, but I get it. It's not for everyone. And later on, when Frank has trouble meeting his deadlines, it doesn't get any better because you have poor Igor Kordy, who is super talented, but it was so far behind he had to deliver fully penciled and inked issues in a matter of days. And poor Igor, it shows. I mean, some of these issues are just rushed out, which is a shame because you read this collected in an omnibus. If it had been treated like The Watchmen, where you
Hmm.
gave the creative team time, it would be a classic to this day. But that artwork really kind of turns a lot of people off, and I get it. But I still think it's significant. A 90-day GPA for this book and a 9.8 is just $78. And it ran from this run was from issue 114 to issue 153. And there are some key issues in here that have seen some significant increases. The first appearances of Zorn, first Phantom X, some classic White Queen, Emma Frost, and Jean Grey covers command a premium. But 114 in particular, the first issue, I think it's still very undervalued for its significance in X-Men history.
Yeah, this is after, for the bulk of this is after I had stopped uh, collecting comic books. I did pick up some through the run, and it did not encourage me to come back, I have to say.
Have you ever read the first story arc with Cassandra Xavier?
No, I didn't.
You should. I mean, just try the first 4 issues, and it's amazing. It creates a new villain out of thin air that kind of, if it was anybody else, you'd be like, really? But Grant Morrison, he kind of makes it work. And then you've got other classic storylines like Riot at Xavier's, where
Hmm.
some of the students are very much kind of a Malcolm X metaphor where, you know what, this peaceful thing ain't working anymore. We got to really kind of ramp it up here to make things happen. It's interesting. He takes the core concept and really doesn't change it, just updates it for the 2000s.
Okay, I take the challenge. I will read it.
All right. That's going to do it for us this week. Remember, follow us where, Richard?
On Bronze and Modern Gods, either on Facebook or Instagram, or if you are into that web thing, that inner tubes thing, you got bronzeandmoderngods.com, the website that John is diligently updating.
Please make sure you like and subscribe this video. Hit your notifications so you can see when our bonus episodes go live, and we will see you later this week.
Everybody stay safe.